Check this out. DCM Raider here, bringing you another Commander deck. Today, we're going to look at a brand new build. This is Mogis, God of Slaughter. He's in the Rakdos colors. He is a legendary enchantment creature god. He has indestructible, and he is not a creature unless your devotion is 7 or more to either black or red. But we're not here for the devotion part. We're here strictly for at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Mogis will deal 2 damage to that player unless they sacrifice a creature. So we are going to primarily focus on sacrifice, discard, and reanimation. So let's get right into it. I'm very happy to showcase this brand new build for you guys, so let's get right into it. Here's the land base. We're running 4 mountains, 4 swamps. We are running command tower. We are running 8 fetch lands with Bloodstained Mire, Marsh Flats, Scalding Tarn, Verdant Catacombs, Arid Mesa, Polluted Delta, Fabled Passage, and Prismatic Vista. And here's the lands that we're going to go get with these fetch lands, apart from basics. First up is Blood Crypt, Rausch's Theater, because surveilling and knowing what our top card is, if we want to leave it or have that card in our graveyard, is going to be very beneficial for us. Now we have Smoldering Marsh, Canyon Slough. Those are the fetchable lands. Now we have our Battle Bond land with Luxury Suite, our check land with Dragon Skull Summit, our filter land with Graven Cairns, our speed land with Blackcleave Cliffs, our Karoo land with Rakdos Carnarium, our ping land, Sulphurous Springs. Now we have a couple cycling lands with Forgotten Cave and Polluted Mire. And to ensure that all our lands are swamps, we are playing Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. And the next land pairs very well with Urborg. That would be Cabal Coffers. This is a very, very powerful land. We're going to add a lot of black mana. Okay, now we have a personal favorite of mine with Barad-dûr. Barad-dûr is going to allow us to create a orc token, or we're going to amass, but we're going to create a token whenever any creature died during that turn. And we're going to use that token in various different ways. Now we have Phyrexian Tower. This is a perfect example of how we're going to use that token. We can use that token for 2 black mana just by sacrificing it. Okay, now we have Blighted Fen. I'm not too sure about this land yet, but I wanted to try it out because having the ability of a opponent sacrificing a creature on a land that we can bring back, I feel is pretty powerful. So that was the land base. Let me know what you guys thought about that land base. That was 34 lands total. Okay, now we got some Planeswalkers for you. And to stay on the discard theme, we are running Davriel, Rogue Shadow Mage. Now we have the original Liliana Vess. She will do the main things we're trying to do by having a player discard a card, whether that be ourselves, if we need to, or we can Vampiric Tutor by searching for a card and putting that card on top of your library. But her ultimate is kind of where we want to be. Once we've killed off most of our opponent's creatures, and those creatures are now in the graveyard, we can put them all onto the battlefield under our control. And to continue with the discard theme, we have Liliana the Veil. This card is very powerful. We can force our opponent to sacrifice a creature. We all get to discard. And you can really scale down your opponent's board state with her -6 ability. And because we're playing red, my personal favorite, Chandra Torch of Defiance. I love this card. If you get her emblem of whenever you cast a spell, you get to throw 5 damage around to any target, is fantastic. She'll generate mana for you. She'll deal with a creature if it's power 4 or less. And you can look at the top card if you want to play it, and if not, you can just deal damage. Okay, let's get into the instance. We are playing the iconic Dark Ritual because we're trying the Reanimator strategy. Here's Entomb. That way we can go get whatever big creature we want, put it in the graveyard, and then reanimate it. Vampiric Tutor, so we can go get whatever card we need. Chaos Warp to deal with our opponent's stuff, or hopefully gamble and try to get something better on our board. Now we have a fun one with Rakdos Charm. Rakdos Charm is going to be pretty good. This is pure speculation, but the fact that if your opponent creates a lot of tokens, we can deal 1 damage to them for each creature they control, or we can destroy a very important artifact of theirs, or if they're trying to reanimate something and we can't get to it fast enough, we can just exile the graveyard. Okay, that was the instance. Let's get into the sorceries. First up is the #1 reanimate spell with Reanimate. Now we have a wheel effect with Wheel of Misfortune. This one's a little strange because it's worded very oddly, but basically if you don't want to wheel, you choose a very low number. If you want to wheel, you choose a higher number. The term wheel just means you discard your hand and you draw that many. We're going to utilize all these draw effects with certain creatures, which I'll get to in just a moment. Of course, we're playing Demonic Tutor. Now, we have Beseech the Mirror. Beseech the Mirror, I feel, is a very powerful tutor effect because not only will you get to tutor for a card you want, but if that card was bargained, which is a additional cost of sacrificing a token, an artifact, or an enchantment, you get to search for that card, and then if that card was mana cost 4 or less, you get to play that card without paying its mana cost. And we're playing Jessica's Will because getting Mogis out pretty early isn't going to be too difficult, so we're going to have the option of doing both of these modes where we can exile the top 3 cards and play them that turn, or the main reason we play this card is adding 1 red mana for each card in target opponent's hand, so we can generate a lot of red mana. Now we have couple mass removals with Damnation, Blasphemous Act, my personal favorite with Toxic Deluge, and a fun one with Rolling Earthquake. I don't think Rolling Earthquake is played nearly as much as it should be played in Commander, because there are so few creatures that have horsemanship. This is pretty much just pay X, get rid of X creatures. Pretty much. Okay. Now we have 3 very specific X spells that we're going to utilize with a very specific combo that we're running in this deck. First up is Banefire. This is just targeted removal. Torment of Hailfire. And Exsanguinate. I'll revisit this in just a moment. Let's get into the artifacts. Of course, we're playing Soul Ring. We're playing Arcane Signet. And Talisman of Indulgence. These are the only early game mana rocks that we're going to be running. The other 7 are going to be very specific to what we're doing. So, here's Elixir of Immortality. As I've described before, I run Elixir in commander decks where I want to keep reusing certain spells over and over and over. Now we have the One Ring. The One Ring is going to be very, very beneficial for us for giving us protection, but also this will synergize with a very certain creature, which I'll get to in just a moment. And we're running Skull Clamp because we're going to be wanting to draw lots and lots of cards. Now we have Ashnod's Altar. Ashnod's Altar is just here to provide 2 colorless mana. We're not playing Phyrexian Altar for very specific reasons. Ashnod's Altar is going to be part of a combo piece as well. Now we have Altar of Dementia. We're going to use this primarily against our opponents because we're not a graveyard deck, so we're not going to be targeting ourselves. Now we have Nim Deathmantle. Nim Deathmantle is only here for one very specific purpose. Now we have Portal to Phyrexia. I love this artifact. This is going to be our main spell to deal with our opponent's creatures, but also it's going to be a very large factor in the reanimation process. Okay, that was the artifacts. Let me know what y'all thought about those. Let's get into the enchantments, because we're going to be focused on our opponent's discarding. We're going to want a lot of value with Waste Not. Waste Not is a very synergistic enchantment because we're going to either make zombie tokens, we're going to add 2 black mana, or we're going to have the option of drawing cards. If we want our opponents to discard a lot, we're going to punish them for discarding. So we're playing Liliana's Caress, Megrim. So ultimately, every time our opponents discard, they can lose a minimum of 2 to 4 life. And with all those creatures going to the graveyard, here's Grey Pact. We're going to trigger this primarily from skull clamping our own stuff. And within that, we have Dictate of Erebos. Okay, now we have some reanimation enchantments. First up is Dance of the Dead, Necromancy, and Animate Dead. And we have a very synergistic one with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. This is a very powerful card. This is going to give us a 2/2 that will give us mana. It'll allow us to discard and draw up to 2 cards, but Chapter 3, it will transform into a Kiki Jiki the Mare Breaker. Now for a little more removal, we have the Meat Hook Massacre. We're just going to load this up, wipe out all the creatures on the board, and if creatures continue to go to the graveyard, we're going to force our opponents to lose life, and we're going to gain life. That was the enchantments. Let's get into all those synergistic creatures. First up is the closest thing to Wheel of Fate. Now we have a couple creatures that we're going to use with Skull Clamp that keep recurring themselves. That way we can continue to do these. First up is Bloodghast. Then we have Reassembling Skeleton. Costs a little more, but if you have 2 mana, you can keep bringing this guy back. Now we have a Sacrifice Outlet with Viscera Seer. And we're going to capitalize on all these creatures dying with Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat. Now we have 3 synergistic creatures. When they enter the battlefield, they're going to force our opponents to sacrifice creatures. So we have Merciless Executioner, Fleshbag Marauder, and Plaguecrafter. I like Plaguecrafter a little more because it kind of blocks a little better, but also it will have the option of hitting a Planeswalker, or if they can't, they're going to discard. So Plaguecrafter kind of has a little more utility. Now we have a couple discard creatures with Elvish Doomsayer. Now we have another one that does the same thing with Burglar Rat. So what is the benefit of running all this discard and sacrifice? I'm glad you asked. Because we are running Turgid, God of Fright. Basically, we're going to gain control of most of the things your opponents are going to sacrifice or discard. Now we have some bigger creatures. Now we have Sheoldred. She's going to force each opponent to sacrifice a non-token creature or planeswalker, but also this will transform into a very powerful saga with the True Scriptures. This is really cool. The first chapter, for each opponent, destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Chapter 2, each opponent is going to discard 3 cards and then mill. And ultimately, Chapter 3, we get to put all creature cards from all graveyards into play under our control. Sounds like everything we want to be doing. We're going to be drawing lots of cards. So we are playing Sheoldred the Apocalypse to reanimate all those creatures every single turn. Sheoldred the Whispering One. This is the original Sheoldred. And now we have a bunch of more synergistic creatures with Dockside Extortionist. So if your opponents really like playing artifacts and enchantments, might as well make a lot of treasure tokens with it. Now we have Sir Conrad. I love this card. He's going to capitalize on creatures dying, being milled by dealing damage to each opponent. Plus we can force our opponents to mill in case they decided to put a certain card on top of their library. We're just like, hey, we're going to mill you, and that card is no longer there. And to go along with Sheoldred the Apocalypse for drawing cards, we are playing Orcish Bowmasters. Orcish Bowmasters is a very powerful card. Okay. Now we're going to continue to punish our opponents by sacrificing permanents with Mayhem Devil. That way we can start throwing damage around. We have a very powerful 2-card combo in red. We are running Kiki Jiki the Mirror Breaker and Zealous Conscripts. How this works, it's very simple. You have Kiki Jiki the Mirror Breaker on the battlefield. You cast Zealous Conscripts. You will gain control of any permanent you want. You'll activate Kiki Jiki the Mirror Breaker. You're going to make a token copy of Zealous Conscripts, which will gain control of Kiki Jiki the Mirror Breaker, which will untap it. Rinse, repeat as many times as you want. You have infinite hasting 3/3 creatures. And that sounds like fun. Okay, now we have 3 very large reanimate targets. First up is Archon of Cruelty. This guy is fantastic. He's going to play into your opponent's sacrificing and discarding, as well as losing life, whenever this enters and attacks. Then we have Atali. Atali is just pretty much here to be a very large dinosaur that's going to exile cards from your opponents that you get to cast. And finally, we have Grave Titan. Grave Titan does such a good job at being a large attacker, a large blocker, generating tokens that you can use in various different ways. But also, this is the other part of the combo I was referring to earlier with Nim Deathmantle and Ashnod's Altar, which will allow us to produce infinite tokens or infinite colorless mana. And as I described before, with the Exsanguinate, Torment of Hailfire, and Banefire, these are the 3 spells we're going to use that infinite colorless mana for. And that was the EDH deck tech for Mogis God of Slaughter. This is the first iteration. Everything is up to interpretation. So I would love to hear every possible suggestion you guys have about this particular build. If you guys really enjoyed this video, I'll have a link to the deck list, which is on Moxfield. I'll place that in the comments below. So, but until next time, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow me on TikTok, and I will see you guys in the next deck tech. Have a great day.